Hey everyone, my name is Chad Guenter, creator of 𝐇𝐄𝐑𝐄 and founder of Project All In Foundation. I live in Canmore, Alberta, and I am a firefighter here and have been for the last 8 years. Thanks very much for taking the time today to check out this video. Really appreciate you stopping by. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Um, we definitely have other things that we could be doing. So taking a moment to maybe listen to something that's uncomfortable for yourself, or that someone else is experiencing some trouble with their mental health. I can speak for them and say that it means a lot that you're here with us today. We feel these presentations are very impactful, just as much as our program is, and we really hope that those of you that are listening walk away from this with a little bit more interest and more compassion for the first responders and frontline people that are in your lives. In this era of healing, which is also the theme of, you know, our presentation, we feel that it's really important that we acknowledge that we live, work, and play in the traditional lands of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nation, the Métis Nation, and all the people who make their home in the Treaty 7 territory. Throughout this presentation, you might hear some things, stats, stories, maybe even certain words, or maybe an example that I give, and that may be a trigger for you. So I just want to give you a moment to take that deep breath, to prepare yourself, um, and to just know that it's okay to feel some of these things. We're not experts in this. We're just here to share our journey and what Project All In is with you. So the Project All In Foundation was founded in 2018, but really we didn't start there. In 2012, I started an initiative, a real grassroots initiative called Keep Calm Paddle On, and basically where that stemmed from was was me and my need to help my family. So I was born and raised in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and at a young age, my brother um, had a traumatic brain injury. He fell off his mountain bike while mountain biking in BC, and he was wearing a helmet, and he hit his head, and that required him to go to the hospital. And from there, I remember getting the call. I was away on a baseball tournament. I remember getting the call from my parents saying that this had happened, and I felt really distraught that I couldn't help. There was not much I could do anyways, but I couldn't help. Little did I know from that point on that this would change the course of his life. So from that brain injury, the doctors started his brain started to present or exacerbate some things that teenagers go through. So because of that, um, doctors started to medicate him, feeling that he was up too much and down too low at certain times, and that was far outside the realm of how a teenager should act. So they started to medicate him, and over the years, that medication took him from someone with a level 2 brain injury to being bipolar. So this is really where this all started from, was a need to help my family, not having the ability financially to help my family. So I just started to raise awareness, and how I raised awareness was from paddling great distances, hoping people would pay attention, and then I would just talk about mental health through social media. And to date, we've done 9 of these self-supported paddleboard trips through Keep Calm Paddle On, and that's really where the start of this mental health journey and trying to build a community started from. And then in 2018, Project All In was founded on the river paddling, where I've been able to find, I think, some of my clearest thoughts and have some of the best moments in nature to really clear my head. And it was clear that we needed to do something to help first responders, make that ask for help easier, and ultimately aid in suicide prevention of our first responders and frontline workers. So the project has always been guided by the hope that we can normalize conversations about mental wellness, mental illness, mental health. Um, the foundation and the coin was created to help first responders in their communities start conversations about their mental wellness. It also helps debrief calls. It hopefully ultimately helps in the aid of suicide prevention. And we decided to create this coin as a tactical tool to make that ask easier. We have a tool, first responders and frontline workers um, have a tool to use or to help them with almost everything. And but we didn't have anything to debrief calls with, and we didn't have anything to ask for help with. So we put a tactical thing and a tactile tool in their hands that they could feel and they could use. And we really think that we know that it's been able to help some people. Our mission statement is to honor the core values of this mission, and that is goals, gratitude, strength, and sacrifice. I will speak more to those when we talk about the design of the coin. What we want to do is provide tools and opportunities for first responders, frontline workers to begin the path towards healing and recovery. Our vision statement is such that we want to be recognized globally as an organization focused on providing these tools and opportunities. Not because we ourselves want the recognition, because we know that there is a need and a recognition of mental wellness in this first responder frontline worker community. Um, we hope that we can accomplish this by delivering coins, delivering our presentations, and hosting events that provide a healing space while harnessing the nature's healing powers where possible. The people that we've included is no short list, and I imagine it will continue to grow. Um, but we have the big four, which everyone usually thinks of when they think of first responders: police, military, fire, and EMS. But we need to include far more people. And these are in no order of importance. Everyone needs to be on this list. Retirees and veterans. Once you leave the service, it's not always at the age of 60, 65. Sometimes it's far earlier than we expect due to physical injury or mental injury. And we want to make sure that retirees and veterans of all of these disciplines are included. Dispatchers, industrial response teams, corrections officers, conservation officers, border patrol, bylaw and peace officers, doctors of all titles, nurses, task force teams, SAR groups and mountain rescue groups, ski patrol, public safety, emergency operations pilots, Coast Guard, lifeguards, tow truck drivers. They're a unique one in that they're just there to take the car away, but sometimes it's at the scene of a traumatic motor vehicle accident. They don't bargain to see these things, so we want to make sure that they are covered and included in this. Child protective services, and what we like to call the hidden heroes: the therapists, the social workers, the counselors, the chaplains, the funeral directors, and those helpline operators that we hope that we never have to call. We made sure that those folks were included as well. Mental health is health, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't draw that conclusion to. It is part of our overall health, very much so, not just physical health, which seems to get a little bit more of the spotlight shone on it. We can't punish ourselves for being human. Our bodies will react when we see things, feel things, hear things, smell things, and quite often we don't have control over how our body reacts. We can recognize them, and that is a large first step in realizing what's happening with us. We know that silence, stigma are seemingly our biggest hurdles. We're then left feeling like we should just snap out of it. And maybe we've even heard that and someone has told that to us, or we have this feeling of being lesser than because we're experiencing these issues. That's just not the case. We should not punish ourselves for being human. We won't win trying to fight the biology on this one. We have something called the window of tolerance. And normally, if we put it into numbers and we have a scale of 1 to 10, that window of tolerance, that middle ground is usually around 4 to 6. And responding to calls, it doesn't matter what time or what type of call, but what that can do is put us on either end of that window of tolerance, and it can cause hyperarousal. It can cause hypoarousal, and you can see from the slide there what some of those things might entail. In the hyperarousal, it might be high energy, anxiety, anger, that feeling of that overwhelming feeling, hypervigilance, fight or flight, kind of feeling chaotic or unsettled. That hypoarousal could be that shutdown phase, that numb, depressive, passive, withdrawn feelings that we might have, that freeze or shame for feeling something. So this is all normal stuff. Our body can manage these things, and if we don't recognize that we are up there or down there, that can be an issue. And sometimes when we spend more time up there based on, for first responders and frontline workers, types of calls and how our body reacts to them, we might stay up there too long. And there are things that we could do for ourselves to help bring ourselves back down. And I'll get into those in this next slide here. Ways that we can bring ourselves back into our window of tolerance around that 4 to 6 range is meditation. That's a really good one, and I find that a lot of people, once they start it, can really cling to it. It's something that's very, very impactful. Exercise is a big one for a lot of people. For me, and personally, hobbies, just being in nature. We're starting to see doctors prescribe this more and more, to just get out, walk. We know that it lowers the heart rate. We know that it can calm you. Nature is a very healing place if we can spend some time in it. Deep breathing is another one. Sensory stimulation. But also don't forget, with the positives, there are some negative things that people do to cope that aren't as healthy. Some examples of resources, in Saskatchewan, we have the CISM network. In Alberta, we do as well. There's ICISF, there's CIPSR, lots of acronyms. The first responder frontline world is pretty heavy in acronyms. R2MR, which stands for Road to Mental Readiness. We've got HeartMath, and then of course 911 itself. But there are a lot of resources, and often you'll see companies, businesses looking out for their employees, and so they'll put a list of resources up. But it's not always easy for that individual to just pick up the phone and make that phone call. I've heard the analogy of, if you've had to make a phone call where you're asking for help because you know that you need it. That's one great thing to recognize, but it's another thing to pick up that phone, and that phone could sometimes feel like a 1,000-pound phone. Like, it's just a very hard task to accomplish. So while putting up resources there, knowing that they're there is great. Hopefully what we can do is make getting there a little bit easier. But do find out what's in your area, what your agency or business offers for resources, because there's some really good ones out there. The Project All In coin. So the coin is the basis of this project, and what it is a tool. And why we've come up with it is because it has origins in the first responder world. Started in the military, and when you were a part of a group, or you potentially did some training and got into a higher class of group, or you changed groups, you'd be given a coin for that group, and it was a feeling of inclusion. It was you were a part of that group, and this was to prove that you were a part of that group based on training that you had done or experiences. So that's kind of the origins of it with the military, and so we knew that this coin would would likely translate well into the frontline first responder world. What we've done with this coin is put a great amount of detail um, into it, and I'll get into that here with the next slide. So, with the coin, we have two sides to it, and we didn't want this to be just we didn't want this to just be a good looking piece that didn't have meaning in it. So this detail portion of the coin, it took me a long time to come up with what I feel represents the first responder world, and for me to get everything in here was challenging. Um, but the design to this was very, very important for us. Um, One of the things we really liked about the coin was that it can create a common bond across agencies. So even though you might be a doctor, pardon me, or you might be a police officer, or in child protective services, or part of the mountain group, there is that bond that can happen by wearing a uniform, and not all first responders and frontline workers wear the same uniform. So it's nice to have something that ties us together, and that coin really does that for us. So here we have a good look at the coin, both sides, and I'll start this time with the help side. So that's the red side, the maple leaf side, or the coin on the left. And Christy, if you'll just go back to that, yeah, thanks very much. The coin on the left is the one we're going to concentrate on for now. So this is the help side. I'll explain how it gets used in a moment. I'll explain the design right now. So on the front, we wanted to make sure that it was inclusive of all the different disciplines in the first responder frontline worker category, and there's just no way that we could put all the different logos on there. It wouldn't be very clear, probably wouldn't look that good. So we went with the maple leaf. The maple leaf, of course, being on our nation's flag, and as a show of unity, we felt that that was a really good indicator of our group. And every vein and point on this maple leaf represents all the different disciplines that we've included in this program. Um, Underneath the maple leaf is the word help in as many different languages as we could fit in there. Um, we know that Canada's diverse, and we wanted to be inclusive. So we felt that that was a really necessary thing to do with this coin. At the top of the coin, you'll see an acronym, or potentially you might even see it as you first glance as a start of a positive first step in a sentence. I can. I can get help. I can call my friend to get something off my chest. I can go to the doctor today, or I can do this, or I can stop doing this negative thing that I've been doing. So it's the start of a positive first step, but it is also an acronym. And like I mentioned, the first responder frontline world, we use a lot of acronyms because there's a lot of things that we have to remember. And a CAN report is something that we often use in the fire service and other services. And I took an I and I stuck that in front of there, and the I stands for identify. So this side of the coin can be a bit of a check-in for yourself. So if we look at that acronym, the I standing for identify, this is why we're here. This is why we're talking. We're trying to identify what's going on with ourselves, and this can be tricky. It can be cumulative also. People often think that it's the traumatic events that get people, and sometimes it's the little events that keep piling up that we don't deal with, and then all of a sudden, boom, we have one big problem comprised of little ones that we didn't deal with. So this can be a tricky one. It can sneak up on us, so to speak. One of the reasons, many reasons, to not struggle alone. Maybe it's a call that shook you, a recent divorce, financial trouble, death of a loved one, health issues, job related stressors. but having a fresh set of eyes can help more easily identify what's going on. It can also be a lot easier to ask for help if you need it. But sometimes that self-identification process can be tricky. What we can do in other people is look for behavioral changes. So, not shining the boots as often as they once did, or maybe the uniform shirt's not tucked in. Maybe they're forgetting to shave and they're a little bit late for work more often than they usually are. So those little behavioral changes can often be an indicator that something is off. So that is a little preemptive step in trying to help identify what's going on. C stands for conditions. So what's happening with you at this time? Is it substance abuse, maybe aggression, difficulty sleeping, changes in mood? Maybe it's anxiety, disinterest in activities that you were once very interested in, giving away possessions, loss of confidence, maybe in your skills or just you as a person, previous coping, or prescribed therapies that are ineffective. If someone points out that you've been different recently, don't slough it off. It may require a deeper, harder look at yourself, which can be challenging, right? A stands for actions. So these are things that we're doing as a result of the conditions. So, are we, um, do we need to present the coin? Do we need a moment to reflect on what's been happening? At this stage, we can find it hard to reach out. So maybe this is the best opportunity to present that coin to someone. And then N stands for needs. So what resources, present and future, are required that we might need based on our conditions and actions. So at the top, again, just to reiterate, we have I can, the start of a positive first step, which is also an acronym, which is laid around the bottom of the coin. Identify conditions, actions, and needs. The maple leaf being that chosen piece to hopefully unite our first responder and frontline workers, with all the points and veins representing the different disciplines. The word help underneath in as many different languages as we could fit, and they're all sequentially numbered. And that's that little box that you see at the bottom there. And now we'll stay on this slide just so you guys can have a good look at the debrief side, and that's the blue side. Okay. The colors are very important to us. Red is almost that synonymous color with help, and blue I personally have found, blue is the color of water, and I mentioned before about what 𝐇𝐄𝐑 has done, and so it was important for that blue to be there. But it's also, for a large part of first responders, that's the color of their uniform. Not all first responders are frontline workers, but um, a good portion of them have blue as a uniform color. So that was something else that we thought really tied in nicely. But blue is also um, a color of the mind. So there's 4 psychological primary colors: red, blue, yellow, and green, and they relate respectively to the body, the mind, emotions, and the essential balance between those 3. So, like I mentioned, blue is the color of the mind, and it's got a soothing and calming effect on us. And you'll start to see fire trucks now in the industry, instead of having red lights that we know can elevate heart rates and stuff like that. They're starting to put blue lights in the fire trucks, and that can calm people down. There was one study over a 10-year period in Tokyo where in the train station, people were jumping in front of the trains on a daily basis, moving millions and millions of people through that train system. And one of the things that they did is they removed the red lights in the train stations, and they put blue lights in there. And they attributed that to a decrease in those people jumping in front of the trains by about 84%. So there are probably other factors in there as well. But that's a pretty substantial look at what that color can do for us. The other thing that we made sure was on this side was, a strong image, and that's why we chose the buffalo. The buffalo was introduced, or I should say reintroduced, into Banff National Park a few years ago after having a many-year absence. And the buffalo, to many Indigenous cultures, is the provider. It provides everything from tools to warmth to a lot of food So it was a very important animal to the people of this region. It's also known as the protector. So, you know, that's kind of like first responders, right? In that, you know, the leader or the first responders, the buffalo in this case, would stand in the front of the herd, head on into the storm, shielding the others, taking the brunt of that storm, and that's really, you know, when you think about those ties to the first responders, that's really what they do, right? And I really like the look of the buffalo. It's huge, it's massive, and it's got these tiny little legs, and you know, metaphorically or literally, that is the tools that we're carrying. That is the baggage that could be on our backs. You know, we're struggling to walk with this baggage that we carry, and I felt like the buffalo really represented that. You know, even the strongest, bravest, and biggest of animals need help once in a while, and I think that's really important to remember. You'll see, not only with the color blue in the buffalo itself, but you'll see a nature scene inside the buffalo, and with 𝐇𝐄𝐑𝐄, nature and water has always been a very important part of healing for a lot of people. And I recently read something by Francis Weller, who's a psychotherapist and author, and he really sums up nature in a way that I hadn't looked at it before. And he said that humans are intrinsically tied to nature, which, given a moment to think about it, we really are. But nature doesn't work on self improvement alone. Yet us as humans and more specifically first responders and frontline workers, we really think that we need this trajectory of getting better, getting better, getting better. We're allowed to dip. We're allowed to not have a consistent self improvement pattern. We're allowed to ebb and flow, just like nature does, right? Nature goes through profound periods of decay, destruction, and death. And our psyches are shaped in the context of nature. So why wouldn't we be akin to the patterns and rhythms of nature? So we really felt like nature had to be represented, not only because of our love for the water and what it has done, and we know through our paddling trips what it can produce for people, but because of that right there. And yeah, Francis Weller did a really good job of you know, just giving me a different spin on what that nature is for people. We punish ourselves so much for not being consistent, but we look at what's tied around us, and it's okay to have those lapses. Um, so that's the buffalo. At the top of the buffalo on the blue side, you'll see, or the debrief side, you'll see the project name, All In, and I really have to thank my chief, who has now since retired from Canmore Fire, Chief Walter Gaylor. I presented this idea to him, and at the time, you know, people always think that their ideas are the best, and until someone tells you different. And so, of course, I was cautious bringing it to him, but he's like, "I think this could work. This might work for some people." And he's like, "Do you have a name for it yet?" And I said, "No, so I'm still, you know, in uh, in the process of figuring this all out." And he said, "Well, whatever you come up with, we're all in." And that just kind of really stuck with me. So it made sense that we called it Project All In, because it is a project. It's an ongoing thing that we're going to evolve and make better, just like ourselves. And around the bottom of that coin, you'll see, you know, part of our mission statement there, which is goals, gratitude, strength, and sacrifice, which are meanings of the buffalo, right? Tied to the buffalo. And I think there are other words that represent the buffalo and first responders well, but I really feel like these tie together appropriately. So when you're struggling, goals are huge. Goals are huge regardless of if you're struggling or not. But when you are struggling, when there isn't that goal ahead of you, um, it seems pretty bleak. So goals can be little, and of course goals can be down the road. But sometimes someone's goal is just to get out of bed in the morning. So that is a little victory, and I think that this just serves as a good reminder. Gratitude is something that we can all be better at for sure, but again, when you're struggling, it is so important to find um, the little things that make the day good, whether that's standing out in the sun or going for a paddle or going to the gym, going for a walk or having that coffee with a friend. Just finding that 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 time where you can be really grateful for that moment is very important. And then strength and sacrifice. Those are two words that are synonymous with frontline workers and first responders. And, you know, there's a great deal of strength that you probably, as a first responder that might be struggling, don't feel like you have when you are struggling. And again, this is the reminder for you that you're not alone in this. And then, of course, sacrifice. We sacrifice so much to do this job, and we often don't get trained when we first start that this is going to be a large part of it. We just kind of assume that it might be there, but maybe not me, maybe someone else. But there's a large portion of sacrifice, whether it's dinners or with your family or birthdays that you missed. Um, yeah, it's poignant, isn't it? That sacrifice that we have. So that's the design of the coin, and it took a while to hash all that out to make sure that it made sense and it provided a check-in. We not only wanted this to be a tool, but we wanted it to provide other functions, and that is of a check-in. So the red side, the maple leaf side, that's the help side. Um, the blue side, the buffalo side, that's the debrief side. So, Christy, if you'll just pass on to a few of those slides, I can go into how this coin should be used. And as agencies decide, like, there is a set of SOGs, suggested operating guidelines, that come with this program, and they're just we've kept them pretty lean, in that if an agency or group or an individual with a partner or spouse or coworkers they trust, if they choose to change those guidelines to fit what they need, they can absolutely do that. That's the whole point of operating guidelines in our industry. So when you produce the debrief side, which we have here in front of us, uh, we've never had a tool to debrief, and some say we don't need it. Some people need that tactile thing in their hand to carry out a skill, like ladders, like the medical equipment we have in bags for EMS, to doctors and nurses, to what police carry as tools. So this tool can be placed on the dashboard of the car, of the truck, on the bumper of the truck after a call, any call. Um, and it is the tool that starts the conversation. And now you can start that debrief. And once we make this normal, and not that debriefing isn't normal, some groups are very good at it, but some aren't. And speaking from experience, we don't have time all the time to debrief every call as it happens. Sometimes some days are left in between, even weeks, before we get to debrief something. But it is important that we talk about it, because if we don't unpack that stuff, your brain will find a compartment for it, and sometimes it shows in ways that isn't the best. So the debrief side is really important. So this could be taken a photo of, and you can send it via text to somebody, or you can put it on the table. So it is just hopefully the side that can open the door and speak for you if you can't. So on the debrief side, we have an assumption that we're there to, um, depending on if you've shown it, you really hope someone is listening to you. Um, Maybe you just want to talk. Maybe that's just it. You just want to just get it off your chest. That's the beauty of a debrief. Maybe you need someone to ask the questions, and this will initiate that conversation for you. But if you are, you know, this program really needs you to be in the moment, and hopefully, and some of the feedback that we've got is that, well, I don't have the answers for this individual to fix them, and therefore, if someone presents this to me, I might feel awkward or scared or not know what to say. And well, that's the beauty with the SOGs. So, there's some preloaded questions in there, but also we're not asking you to fix this individual. We're just asking you to be the conduit, so that they can get what they need. So if that means a car ride to a doctor's office, if that means a car ride to their apartment where it's safe, or for you to place a phone call for them, we just really want you to help be that vehicle to get them there. We're not asking you to fix them. So make sure you're providing a judgment-free space, um, and that's a really important thing. I think a lot of people are shy about opening up or being vulnerable because of how they feel they might be judged. Let's go another slide here, Christy, if we can. So the Maple Leaf side, the red side, or the help side, as we've called it, um, this is the side that hopefully will prevent someone from getting too deep and too dark. And we hope that this will make it easier for them to talk, because the coin really does the talking for them. So over the years of taking people down the river, um, I asked the question, why is it so hard to find help or to get to help? And I think really I was just asking the wrong question. What would make asking for help easier? And I really didn't know what that was. Um, but in many cultures, they use something like a talking stone or a stick, where that gets passed from person to person. And that's your time to open up and to share. And I've been a part of that. And, when I lived in Mexico, and that was a very, it was a very, very impactful moment for me, sitting in that group, and having that passed to me, and being able to open up in that judgment free zone. And that coin, we hope, with this side, will help make it easier to open up. Some people just aren't good at communicating, and I think I'm getting better at it, but I still find times where it is hard to open up. So having something that will do that for you. Picture yourself being in a coffee shop, or on a walk down a trail, um, and you're talking with your friend, your coworker, loved one, spouse, partner, whoever that might be, someone you trust, and you're like, okay, I made this time happen today with this person so that I could tell them what's going on with me. But the conversation is light. It's about the weekend. It's about what we've been doing. I don't want to wreck it. And often that's a hurdle for us. And sometimes we don't open up. You're afraid of crying, or looking vulnerable, or something like that. Where if you just show this side of the coin, that person, if they're familiar with the program, will understand that that is a sign of help, and they will start to initiate the conversation. And I think that's the key here, is that this help side will allow you, as the person that needs help, to stay quiet and allow that other person to start asking you the questions. And all you have to do at this point, because of the preloaded questions, or questions that you may come up that you want in your own guidelines, do you need to see a doctor? And all you have to do is shake your head, yes or no. Do you need me to call somebody for you? Yes. Okay. Like these are simpler forms of communication, instead of having to come up with the right words. Um, in fact, you don't even have to go into the backstory with why you feel this way, which I think a lot of people need that. And then they need to feel like it's justified that they feel that way. We can skip all that. You present this, they know you need help. The questions can start coming from them, and all you need to do is nod your head, or maybe say yes or no if you're comfortable with that. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? 10 being suicidal. All you have to do is raise your hand and show them a number. Just a simpler way of communicating. So we know through feedback that this has worked for some people in a very grand scale of preventing them their own selves from dying by suicide. There are stories that we've heard back that are very sad in some regard, but very, on the other end, we're very happy that they used this, and were able to use it as intended, and it worked for them. This tool won't work for everyone. Um, we know that people are just too unique, and this won't be a catch-all for everyone, but it will work for some people, um, and that's great. And sometimes just looking at the resource page and calling a psychologist, that will work for some people too, and that's great. We're happy those resources are there, but we do know the conversations we've had over the years of people struggling, that this ultimately is a very challenging thing, that ask for help. And this side, the help side, will help initiate that ask. Again, you're not expected to fix this person. You're just a conduit to help get them to a better place. And that might be to a safe place, right? That might be to their home. That might be to their parents' home, someone they trust, might be to the hospital. It might be just that phone call again. So this can be texted, it can be through, through a text, a picture, and then the conversation can start there. Um, and you can really change this to fit your needs. I had a police officer approach me once and say, could I get another one of those coins for my children? I think one of them is being bullied at school and he's having a tough time talking about it. And I think this coin is pretty cool. It's worked for me. Maybe I could have that, that inclusiveness, that bond between my my child with this coin. It's like our own special group. And I hadn't even thought of that. And so there is opportunity to grow this in the way that works for you. So just to recap how the coin can be used, um, the blue side at its simplest, just calling it the blue side or the buffalo side, that's the debrief side. Um, Really to normalize and have a tool to debrief. Again, some groups are very good at this, but some aren't. They need a reminder, and that coin can be that for them. Having it in your pocket, it's got a heavy weight to it. So when you put your hand in your pocket, it's there. Maybe you keep it in your chest pocket of your uniform. But again, it's just that reminder that, oh yeah, we had that call today. We need to debrief it. And you might not even use the coin itself to do the debrief, but just having it there as a reminder to make sure you debrief, or to check in on someone. Um, and then the help side, again, just a reminder that you're not alone. And maybe you just go through the identification process of conditions, actions, needs, what's going on around me, what's been happening lately, how am I trying to fix it, either positively or negatively, and what do I need. So it can just be a personal check-in, or you can actually present this to someone and it will speak for you, which we know is an issue for some folks. Where are we now? Where are we now and where are we going? So right now we are in 200 plus agencies. We're in 9 countries around the world: um, Canada, the US, New Zealand, Africa, Australia, the Cayman Islands, Honduras, parts of the UK, and Sweden. So it's pretty interesting when you see that, when you look at it like that. Um, there's first responders all over the world, frontline workers all over, and really we've just been focusing on North America because it's where we're from, where we've started, and we really hope that we can get this program into the hands of more people. And recently, we just had, well, just towards the end of last year, we had the USA coin minted. It looks a little bit different than our Canadian coin, in that it doesn't have a red maple leaf on it. However, the red maple leaf coin is down in the US in some groups. Um, but we had a request for something with a bit of an American twist on it, which we were happy to do. And what it looks like instead of a red maple leaf is a white star. And every point, triangle, and line in the white star represent our first responders and frontline workers in the US. So they have a little bit of a personalized coin. And we also just, as of last year, minted our 10,000th coin, and we're pretty proud of that. Starting a original order with 1,000 coins, you'd be like, might have some left over, and it is pretty wild to see that there is a need for 10,000 coins and probably more. Um, at the end of the day, it is a tool for us, like we have all other tools in our job, that hopefully will make it just a bit easier for our first responders. Upcoming events, we try to align with some groups and work alongside them. Sometimes we host our own things, and as of recently, we've been asked to join the Dirt and Depression campaign, which is a backroads motorbike trip from Newfoundland to Victoria to raise awareness for mental health, men's mental health specifically. And that's supposed to happen in July and August. And what that would allow me to do is, along that bike trip, to um, visit agencies along the from coast to coast in Canada, and to talk about Project All In, and to get the coin in hands of people in places we haven't yet personally been able to be yet. So that's very exciting. And then, of course, I mentioned before KCPO, so Keep Calm Paddle On, and we're shooting for June of this year. It's our 3-day self-supported stand-up paddleboard trip over 150 kilometers, where we take people with camp stoves, tents, sleeping bags, pillows, food, water. We put all that on our boards and we paddle down the river, leaving the shoreline behind us, uh, getting fairly remote. And that trip will be in its 10th year this year, 10th time down the river. And really looking forward to that. And then we've got Firefit coming up in August, where we'll be a part of that. Not quite sure in what capacity, but we will be there in some way, shape, or form. And then probably our flagship event is our Tofino Subsurf Retreat. That's happening in October this year. And really, what that is not only did we want to give people a tool to use to ask for help, we wanted them to give them a place where they could start that healing process. And for me, Tofino's always been that place. It's just a very special place in Canada. For me, it's so beautiful and almost otherworldly in my mind. And what we do is we take first responders there, we put them up in beachside accommodations, we feed them really well, we teach them more about their brain and why they respond, or how it responds to the events that they see, and the why and the what of that. And then we also teach them how to surf and paddle on stand-ups in the ocean. And there's just a we really try and harness that nature and to connect folks to the land and to the culture that's there, which is very strong and deep. And that's happening in October of this year. We have another project coming. Well, it's already been started. It's in its infancy right now, but it's been it's been named Bramble the Amble right now. It might change, it might stick. I don't know. Um, but it's a ambulance that was donated to us a little while back, and it will do a few things for us. We're gonna take what you see there, and we're going to make it stand out, so to speak. And what we're hoping with this is that it will provide us some advertising when we go to events, which will, you know, bring people and hopefully have them start asking questions about, why it looks the way it looks. We've got some grand plans for it, making it big and all that sort of stuff, and branded. But so that gets the conversation going for us with maybe people we haven't been able to have that with before. But what we also hope to do with this is outfit it so that you could take it camping, biking, paddling, hiking, snowshoeing, skiing. So we used to have a lodge that we were associated with, Sheepdog Lodge, and we could send people there and say, hey, it's a really great organization. They're helping first responders and veterans. Go there, decompress, unplug. We don't have that accessible to us anymore. So we're going to make a mobile version of that inside of Project All In. And this is where a first responder, frontline worker could rent. Well, we'd raise funds so that people could take this hopefully free of charge, or maybe a small rental fee, and they can take their family or themselves and just take this for the weekend and disconnect, go into nature. And yeah, we think it's a pretty neat opportunity to have something like that. What we also hope to have with this ambulance is maybe a bit of a mobile treatment center, in that traditional styles of therapy, being in an office, talking to someone, will work for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone. Some people tend to really open up in nature, and that's been my experience taking people down the river, because I've had some of the most profound and emotional conversations in nature. And what we hope is that with this ambulance, you could take that with a board certified psychiatrist or psychologist or therapist of some sort in this, and you could take it, and that would pick you up, and you'd be like, wow, this amazing vehicle is going to pick me up and take me skiing for the day. And your therapy session happens to be on the chairlift, ski down, meet up with your therapist, take the chairlift again, and continue that. Or maybe it's done on the hiking trail, or maybe it's done while snowshoeing or paddling down a lake or something like that. So big plans. That's what we'd like to do, a Project All In, but that's what we're planning for Ramble the Amble. There's a couple things that I'd like to leave you with. Um, and one of them is, we feel that, I mentioned it before, that that self-improvement or that self-care, we feel like it should be a constant trajectory heading up. And that's not always the case. And we really beat ourselves up for not being successful in that way. What we need to do is be okay with the dips, the valleys, the ebbs and the flows that happens with. And sometimes that darkness that can be felt when you're struggling feels insurmountable, and that darkness is often associated with being down, with being depressed, with being holding on to some hurt. But I do want you to think about this. Think of your heart beat in your chest right now. I invite you to take a minute and just put your hand on your chest to feel that. That heart is beating in utter darkness. And that's a good thing, because if your heart saw the light of day, we wouldn't be here. So not all darkness is bad. If you change the trajectory of an airplane, I find this so fascinating, that by just 1%, if you change the trajectory of an airplane by just 1%, that flight path, you will end up in such a different place. What we mean by that is that it doesn't take a huge first step to initiate change. It can be very little. Thank you guys all for taking your time to listen to this today. Um, it's definitely different presenting to a computer screen, not knowing who's on the other side. But we're very hopeful that when we have the opportunity to put this on our website, that it can be watched um, by anyone, anytime around the world, and that's really important to us. If you have any questions, you can check out our website. And if you have further questions, you can hit us up on email at hello@projectallin.ca. And myself or one of the other board members will get back to you there. But just thank you again so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this. I know the first responders, frontline workers in your family will be very, very thankful that you did. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around and watching this video. It means a lot to us here at Project All In, and it really helps us get the word out. There's a few things that you can do if you're wondering how you can help, and that is: one, share this video; two, follow Project All In on Instagram; three, book a presentation. Just hit our contact info on our website. Or number four, you can donate just by clicking the donate button on our website. I'm going to leave you with one more thing. Please reach out to someone today: friend, family, a first responder, or a frontline worker. Just send them a message. Let them know that you're there. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.